What if your biggest failure isn't the thing that went wrong? What if your biggest failure is believing that because you failed once, you are a failure? You lost the job. You failed the exam. Your business didn't work. Someone rejected you. A relationship ended. You made a decision you regret. And suddenly your mind turns one event into a verdict about your entire life. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. Maybe I'm just not meant for this. But Marcus Aurelius would challenge that thinking, because an event can defeat your plan without defeating you. Failure can take your money, it can take an opportunity, it can take your comfort, but it cannot decide who you become next. Only you can do that. And this is where the ancient philosophy of Stoicism becomes incredibly powerful, because Stoicism doesn't teach you how to avoid failure. It teaches you how to remain standing after it. Failure is an event, not an identity. One of the biggest mistakes we make after failing is turning an event into an identity. You fail an exam. Instead of saying, I didn't prepare enough, you say, I'm stupid. You lose your business. Instead of saying, my strategy didn't work, you say, I'm terrible at business. Someone rejects you. Instead of saying, they didn't choose me, you say, I'm not worthy of being loved. Do you see the difference? The first statements describe an event. The second statements attack your identity. And that's where failure becomes dangerous. Because you can recover from an event. But if you convince yourself that the event defines you, you'll carry it everywhere. Your failure becomes the voice in your head. So the next time something goes wrong, stop and ask, what actually happened? Not, what's wrong with me? Not, why am I such a failure? Just, what actually happened? Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you weren't prepared. Maybe someone made a decision you couldn't control. Maybe circumstances simply didn't go your way. Accept the facts. Then work with them. Failure is information. Imagine you're learning archery. You shoot an arrow. It misses. Would you throw away the bow and declare yourself worthless? Of course not. You would study the shot. Maybe your aim was wrong. Maybe your position was wrong. Maybe the wind affected it. Maybe you need more practice. Then you adjust. That's how you should treat failure. Failure is information. A failed business can show you what you didn't understand. A failed relationship can reveal communication problems. A failed exam can expose weaknesses in your preparation. A failed goal can show you that your strategy wasn't effective. Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? Ask, what is this failure trying to teach me? What did I underestimate? What did I ignore? What could I have done differently? What can I control next time? These questions turn pain into education, and education is something you can use. Stop asking why me. When life hits us unexpectedly, the mind often asks, why me? Why did this happen? Why did they leave? Why did I lose? Why did someone else succeed? Why wasn't I chosen? But there's a problem with this question. It keeps you trapped in the past. So replace it with two words. What now? You lost your job. What now? Your relationship ended. What now? Your business failed. What now? You made a terrible mistake. What now? Those two words shift your attention from what cannot be changed to what can still be done. You can't rewrite yesterday, but you can influence tomorrow. Maybe you need to learn a new skill. Maybe you need to apologize. Maybe you need to start again. Maybe you need to change direction. Maybe you need to try a completely different approach. You don't need to know the entire path. You only need to identify the next step. You are allowed to hurt. There's another misunderstanding about strength. Some people think being mentally strong means feeling nothing. It doesn't. You are allowed to be disappointed. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to cry. If something mattered to you, losing it will hurt. That's not weakness. That's being human. The goal isn't to pretend the pain doesn't exist. The goal is to make sure the pain doesn't control the rest of your life. Feel it. Understand it. Learn from it. Then slowly move forward.
Don't build your permanent identity around a temporary wound, because pain can visit your life without becoming your home. Failure reveals your character. You don't truly know how resilient you are until life tests you. When everything is going well, discipline is easy. When you're winning, confidence is easy. When everyone supports you, optimism is easy.
But what happens when the results disappear? What happens when nobody is applauding? What happens when the plan completely falls apart? That's when character becomes visible. Anyone can feel confident while winning. The deeper question is, can you continue while losing? Can you keep working when nobody notices? Can you remain disciplined when motivation disappears? Can you stay kind when you're angry? Can you remain hopeful when you don't know how things will turn out? Failure exposes these questions, and that makes failure valuable. Not pleasant, not desirable, but valuable. Because it shows you where you need to become stronger. Don't compare your failure to someone else's success. One of the worst things you can do after failing is compare yourself to other people. You fail. Then you open social media. Someone bought a house. Someone started a successful business. Someone got married. Someone is traveling. Someone achieved the dream you've been chasing. And suddenly your own life looks worthless. But remember, you're comparing your reality to their highlight reel. You don't see their failures. You don't see their anxiety. You don't see their private struggles. You don't see the years of work behind the result. And most importantly, their timeline is not your timeline. Your job isn't to become someone else. Your job is to become better than the person you were yesterday. Run your race. Learn your lessons. Walk your path. Don't let failure teach you to quit. Failure becomes dangerous when you allow it to convince you to stop trying. You try once. It doesn't work. You quit. Then years later, you wonder, what if I had tried again? But there's an important distinction. Sometimes failure means you should stop, and sometimes failure means you should change your strategy. Your first business model failed? Learn. Your first video didn't perform? Improve. Your first attempt wasn't good enough? Practice. Your first plan didn't work? Build a better one. You can abandon a strategy without abandoning yourself. You can change the method without giving up on the mission. Failure doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means adjust. Begin again. One of the most powerful things you can do after failure is also one of the simplest. Begin again. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel motivated. Not when everyone believes in you. Begin with whatever you can do today. One page. One workout. One application. One phone call. One lesson. One attempt. One small improvement. You don't need to rebuild your entire life in one day. You just need to take the next useful step. A mountain isn't climbed in one movement, it's climbed one step at a time. And sometimes, after failure, your only job is to take that first step again. The lesson of failure. So if you're watching this because you've recently failed, remember this. You are not your worst decision. You are not your rejection. You are not your failed business. You are not your exam result. You are not the opportunity you lost. Those things happened, but they don't have to define what happens next. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot control every person. You cannot control every circumstance. But you can control your response. You can learn. You can adapt. You can get back up. You can try again. And maybe one day, you'll look back at the failure you thought would destroy you and realize that it was actually the experience that made you stronger. Because failure isn't always the end. Sometimes, failure is training. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches discipline. It teaches courage. It teaches you how to stand when life gives you every reason to fall.
So don't waste your failure. Study it. Learn from it. Let it sharpen you. And then,
stand up and take the next step.
Because your failure may be part of your story, but it does not have to be the final chapter.
If this video hits you, subscribe to Stoic with Aurelius for more Stoic lessons to become unbreakable.